everyone, and welcome to Carmel Unfiltered. I'm Samantha Fulling, and in this episode, we're breaking down the April 26th Carmel Central School District Board of Education Policy Committee meeting, what it says, how it works, and what it actually means for students, parents, and staff. Let's be honest, most policies are written in a way that are hard to follow unless you actually know what you're looking for. So my goal here is simple: to take the language off the page, translate it into plain English, and give you the context you need to understand how it's applied in real life. I'll walk through the key parts of the policy, highlight anything that tends to cause confusion, and point out what you should actually pay attention to. If you want to read any of the full policies, I'll link them below, but this is your shortcut to understanding it without having to dig through pages of formal language. So let's get into it. So this is the April 6, 2026 Carmel Central School District Board of Education Policy Committee meeting, which was held at 5:30 p.m. in the Administrative Office Executive Conference Room. Present at the meeting were President Melissa Orser, Trustee Nicholas Magliano, and Superintendent Michael Plotkin, as well as Board of Education Attorney Pam Bass. At the start of the recording, President Orser did say that there were some technical difficulties in the beginning, and she added that the viewers joining the live stream at that point did not miss much, and that they should be able to rewatch on the recording. Unfortunately, that did not make it to the final cut, so we did miss approximately a couple of minutes. They were coming back from exec, so I don't think we missed too much. Around the 9-minute mark, they jump into reviewing policy 2103, and the language under discussion states that that proposed new policies, revisions, or repeals will initially be presented to the policy committee by the superintendent and Board of Education members, and that proposals should be presented in a timely way to allow for discussion, evaluation, and comment. The policy also states that the initial presentation should include the superintendent's recommendations, a reading of the completed draft, and any supporting reports, and that the policy committee will recommend proposed new policies or suggested amendments to the full board. Around 9 minutes and 40 seconds, the committee discusses adding language to create a path for other board members to move a policy forward. President Orser proposes adding language stating that if 3 board members want to see a policy and do not receive it after 2 policy meetings, they may request that it be brought to the next board meeting. Trustee Magliano responds that he is comfortable with that change and says that it would create a mechanism so that other board members can see policies and provide balance. Around 10 minutes and 45 seconds, the committee then reviews the section on adoption of a written policy. They read language stating that policy adoption occurs only after the proposal has been moved and discussed at the first reading and voted on affirmatively at the second reading meeting. The committee identifies wording issues and clarifies that the phrase should refer to the second reading meeting. And I do recall there was a language issue with reading meeting, and I believe they settled on just meeting instead of reading meeting. And a revision is agreed to so that the policy draft may be amended at either meeting by a majority vote. The line appears to be finalized by President Orser, who said, "So that's what we have to say. The policy draft may be amended at either meeting by a majority vote." The committee then reviewed the section stating that the board may waive the second reading and complete adoption of the proposed policy at the first reading. Around 12 minutes and 30 seconds, the committee reviewed language stating that formal adoption of the policy shall be recorded in board minutes, and that only written statements adopted and recorded in that way shall be regarded as an official board policy. And the availability of the policy manual on the district website is also noted. Around 12 minutes and 45 seconds, the committee reviewed the emergency authority section, and that section states that in situations where action must be taken within the school system and the board has provided no policy, the superintendent has authority to act and will report that action and the need for a policy to the board. Around 13 minutes and 15 seconds, the committee moves into the implementation review and evaluation portions of the policy. They review language stating that the superintendent and administration shall work with the board to administer policies formulated by the board, and shall be responsible for the district's educational program and shall fully comply with applicable New York State law, court orders, and federal law. It also stated that the board shall encourage staff, students, and others to make their views known. President Orser did say that it was a lot of words and we just want input from the community, and the discussion shifted towards simplifying the language so it more clearly stated that stakeholders should be a part of the policy evaluation process and provide input. Around 15 minutes, the committee reviewed the remainder of the section, and including language directing the superintendent to bring policy areas in need of revision or new development to the board's attention, and language requiring the board to review the full manual at least once every 3 years. They also review the section on superintendent regulations, which states that the board shall delegate to the superintendent the function of specifying required actions and detailed arrangements for school operations, so long as those regulations are consistent with board policy. At the end of that section, President Orser says, "Perfect, I think we accomplished what we wanted to with those changes." Around the 16-minute mark, they did briefly discuss Policy 2302, agenda preparation. The committee reviewed it briefly to determine whether any additional change was needed, and after looking it over, President Orser said that they were good, and she just wanted to check on something, and no further change was made at that time. Around 18 minutes, additional discussion on emergency policy changes came back to the table, and at that point, the committee returned to a question related to Policy 2103. President Orser asked whether another section should be added to address a situation in which an existing policy would need to be changed quickly without waiting to return to the policy committee. So she raised the possibility of an emergent situation where the board may need to change a policy at the board table if there was not enough time to go to a meeting. Her hypothetical situation was bringing up the cell phone law and said, possibly in midterms, the governor could say the cell phone ban is going to be overturned, and it's 6 weeks until the next policy committee meeting, and there's 2 board meetings in between. Could the board at the board table just overturn the policy? And Pam Bass explained that a change in law would not require emergency policy action because the district would already be protected by following the law. And after that explanation, committee agreed not to add the additional emergency section. Around 21 minutes and 55 seconds, the committee decided not to move forward with Policy 2103 just yet. President Orser said that the item had been brought to the committee at the request of a board member and that additional discussion is needed with that board member before the policy can come out of committee. She said that it will remain on the agenda for the next month, and if there are no additional changes, then it can be brought out. At 22 minutes and 40 seconds, policy number 5803, the wellness policy, took place. President Orser noted that Pam Bass sent a revised version and copies were distributed. She then asked Pam Bass to walk the committee through the updated language. So Pam Bass explained that she removed the original first paragraph and replaced it with language used by other districts to describe the purpose of the wellness policy. She reads the revised language stating that because of the connection between proper nutrition, adequate school activity, and educational success, the board adopts goals and authorizes actions to provide students with an environment that promotes health and wellness and reduces childhood obesity. She also reviews definitions for school campus, school day, and competitive food, and then explains that some educational material from the earlier draft did not need to remain in the policy. The committee reviewed revised language stating that Carmel Central School District is committed to providing school environments that promote and protect children's health, well-being, and ability to learn by supporting healthy eating and physical activity. The draft also included language about involving students, parents, teachers, food service professionals, health professionals, and other community members in developing, implementing, monitoring, and reviewing district-wide nutrition and physical activity policies. It also includes opportunities for students to be physically active and access affordable, nutritious, and appealing foods. The committee then reaches language referring to a children's Nutrition and Wellness Committee, and Pam Bass asks whether a committee currently exists, and President Orser replies that she had never heard of it, and another speaker responds that it does not exist. President Orser said, so let's get rid of that paragraph, and the committee agrees to remove the paragraph and related references. The committee continues with that section, including participation in federal meal programs, nutrition education, physical education, and language connecting healthy eating, physical activity, and positive self-image. A line about promoting awareness of eating disorders in the community was discussed. President Orser said she does not like the wording, particularly the phrase about promoting awareness of eating disorders in the community, and asked whether that language is still needed. And Pam said that that could be removed. At that point, a discussion around social media and concerns of rising eating disorders amongst children is brought up, and it was asked whether this was the only place in the wellness policy where the issue is addressed, and suggests that the policy should still reflect mental health concerns in some way. And that leads to a revision in the opening language of the policy. Instead of keeping the original wording about eating disorders in that specific sentence, the committee agrees to define health more broadly in the opening section. It was suggested adding physical and mental in parentheses after health, and President Orser agreed and asked for emotional health to be added in as well. The committee agrees to revise the section so that children's health is defined as physical, mental, and emotional. Around the 29-minute, 15-second mark, they remove the section tied to the Children's Nutrition and Wellness Committee because our district does not have that body, and the committee then reviews language under food and beverages available to students. The board recognition language about nutritious, balanced, and reasonably portioned diet is read, and the committee discusses ensuring that foods and beverages available in school meet both federal and state regulations. There is also a small wording correction from health food and beverages to healthy food and beverages. And the committee next reviews a series of detailed smarter lunchroom techniques, which included examples such as fruit displayed in bowls or baskets, sliced or cut fruit available, food options placed within easy reach of students. Trustee Magliano responds that he had sent over the menu and says he has concerns about the gap between the policy language and what is actually being served. Trustee Magliano then proceeds reading examples from the school lunch offerings, including chicken nuggets, garlic bread style items with marinara, chicken fajitas, soft shell tacos, pizza, popcorn chicken, fish sticks, mozzarella sticks, chicken patty, macaroni and cheese, and hot dogs. During that discussion, Trustee Magliano says the language feels inaccurate and states the whole thing is false advertising. In response, Superintendent Plotkin says that based on his understanding, the state had given the district some of the highest scores in what it serves. The conversation then shifts towards making the policy more accurate and more workable. At that point, President Orser tries to summarize the discussion and says she is hearing that the committee wants the policy either to direct healthier food service or, at minimum, to reflect current district practice accurately. Trustee Magliano clarifies that his concern is accuracy and that the policy should not make it sound like the district is doing something that it's not actually doing. The committee then decides to back up and revise the page more broadly. President Orser says the policy will stay in committee until members feel it reflects both board expectations and district practice. Superintendent Plotkin adds that balancing healthier lunch service with what students are actually going to eat is difficult because these goals can sometimes be in tension. There's also a discussion about whether fruit is offered whole or cut, how fruit options are displayed, and whether some of the very detailed smarter lunchroom provisions should simply be shortened or removed, and the committee leans toward condensing those sections. The committee then continues revising the detailed food service bullet points. Among these changes discussed were removing the requirement for creative descriptive names for vegetables, simplifying the language on daily fruit and vegetable availability, confirming that grab-and-go meal components are required for reimbursement, revising staff training language, discussing beverage placement, and reviewing whether alternative entree options are available at different grade levels. A discussion also takes place about whether student surveys and taste testing should be in the policy, and the committee instead moves towards broader language stating that student feedback is used to improve menu development and dietary options. The committee then moved towards posting menus on the district website and whether nutritional information and ingredients are accessible there as well. and the discussion leads to revised language about posting menus on the district website and providing access to nutrient content and ingredients. The committee then reviewed additional sections, including fruits, vegetables, salads, whole grains, and low-fat items to the extent required by federal or state regulations, promoting family awareness of meal programs, making drinking water available, accommodating students with special dietary needs, meal scheduling, and sale of food and beverages. And then the committee reached the fundraising section, and the language under review states that fundraisers selling food or beverages to students on school campus during the day must meet federal nutrition standards. There is also discussion of language stating that student groups conducting fundraisers off campus or outside of the school must follow the policy, while outside organizations and parent groups conducting fundraisers off campus or outside the school day are encouraged to follow it. So not required, encouraged. The committee then reviewed the section on school and classroom parties, celebrations, and other events where food is provided but not sold. And the language covered snacks brought in for class celebrations, food used for learning activities, and other school events involving the food. And the committee discussed that keeping legally necessary language in this section while recognizing that it applies to routine school celebrations. The committee also discussed adding language related to food allergies, dietary restrictions, and other dangers associated with food service or food consumption. President Orser said there should be a piece about allergies. The discussion then expanded to include possible food safety concerns such as choking hazards and risk associated with food brought from home. The committee then shifted to the issue of food shaming and said that the policy should include a statement about food shaming and that no food service worker or staff member should make a child feel embarrassed or ashamed if the child does not have lunch, and continues by describing language that would make clear that lunch should still be provided. It was clarified that the concern is about students who cannot afford lunch, and President Orser agreed and continued the discussion. During that exchange, Pam Bass points out that the district already has another policy covering that issue, identified in the discussion as Policy 5802, Student Food Service Accounts. The committee agrees that the concept is already addressed there, but also discusses cross-referencing that policy within the wellness policy. Around the 1 hour, 2 minute, 25 second mark, the committee reaches the section on marketing of foods and beverages, and that section states that any food or beverage marketed on school grounds during the school day must meet federal standards for competitive items, and that the restriction applies broadly to buildings, grounds, vehicles, athletic fields, parking lots, publications, vending machines, equipment, posters, garbage cans, and cups. President Orser asked whether the district markets food and beverages. Superintendent Plotkin responds with examples such as posters, theme signage, and vendor-provided items. At that point, President Orser asked whether this is a good place to stop for the night's review of the wellness policy, and the committee agrees. At the 1 hour, 4 minute mark, Pam introduces a list prepared by the secretary showing policies that have been reviewed, the district's required policies, and when various policies were last reviewed. She explains that her also reviewed the list and that the goal is to use it as a guideline for deciding what should be reviewed next. President Orser then asks whether all policies have gone through review at least once, and it was explained that not everything has, and that some policies were added after checking board docs. It was noted that if a policy was not on the earlier spreadsheet, it likely has not been touched since around 2021, and the committee decides where to begin next. President Orser identifies the first items to take up at the next meeting: notification of sex offenders, staff participating in community events, and staff participating in political activities. The committee agrees that those items will be taken up next time, along with continuing the wellness policy review. At the 1 hour, 7 minute mark is a return to public comment. A public speaker begins by commenting on the wellness policy discussion and says that the Ram Deli is different from the cafeteria because it is paid for by students directly, even if the district supplies the food. The speaker raises concerns about choking hazards, including mozzarella sticks, hot dogs, and grapes, and expresses concerns that the fundraiser language may affect PTO-type events and fundraising promotions on school property. In response, President Orser thanks the speaker and says the policy language refers to fundraisers selling food and beverages to students on school campus, while sales to parents on school grounds are a different issue. The speaker then clarified concerns about events on school grounds that are not during the school day but still involve student purchases. The discussion then briefly returns to the Ram Deli. Superintendent Plotkin says that he believes some deli items may count as reimbursable meals and says he is going to look into what is and what is not covered. At the 1 hour, 11 minute, 50 second mark, they adjourn. President Orser says the next meeting is expected to be May 4th. And at close, Superintendent Plotkin says, "May the 4th be with you." Great way to end the meeting. That wraps up today's policy meeting breakdown. Policies like this shape how decisions are made, how students are supported, and what rights and responsibilities exist within our schools. For full episodes, updates, and ways to connect, visit linktree/Carmel Unfiltered. And if there's a policy you'd like to see broken down in a future episode, message or email me at carmelunfiltered@gmail.com. I'm Samantha Fulling, and this is Carmel Unfiltered, my platform, my perspective. Until next time.